Hello, everyone. This is the Bleav in Bengals podcast with yours truly, Solomon the Wilcots. Cincinnati Bengals are coming off the bye week. Of course, they should be rested and ready now that they're coming off the bye week with a 4-7 record. Think about it this way. The Cincinnati Bengals have 6 games left to the regular season. They can't afford another loss. I'm not going to blow out the candles on their hopes of making the playoffs, but with another loss, let's face it, it's going to be impossible. Right now, with 7 losses, that's about all you could expect in the AFC. That means the Bengals are going to have to win out of these final 6 games. Just to get to 10-7, they got to run the table. And that's going to be 2 games against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to play up against 5 of the top defenses in the National Football League against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is one of the best. We'll give you some of the numbers a little bit later. The 4th best scoring defense in the NFL. You got to play that team twice. You got to play the Cleveland Browns, who are loaded with the likes of Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward on defense. Tennessee Titans. Remember Brian Callahan? He was one of our guys. Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator. We got a date with destiny coming up against the Tennessee Titans, who, oh, by the way, have one of the top defenses in the National Football League. Chidobe Awuzie is playing for the Tennessee Titans. And then you have the Denver Broncos, my good friend Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator there. They lead the league in sacks. They have a trio of cornerbacks who cover as good as any in the National Football League. Patrick Surtain, of course, is the best among them. The kid's already been an all-pro, and he's only in his 3rd season in the NFL. So you've got the Denver Broncos and, of course, the Cleveland Browns. We got a game against the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be on the road at Dallas. Listen, Dallas Cowboys can't stop a bloody nose. But you get them at home, they got a fighter's chance. They have a slugger's chance. I expect us to put up big numbers in that game. But those are 6 games, and you got several of them still left in the AFC North division. In fact, you got 3 games left within a division against Cleveland and 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we got our work cut out for us. Can we run the table, Cincinnati? Can we win 6 in a row? I believe it's doable, but I also believe that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be looking at some of the younger players. They're going to get a look at some of the younger guys. They're going to get a chance to impress upon the coaches that we are the future. And so if you're Josh Newton, if you're Jermaine Burton, younger players who are going to get an opportunity to prove that you could be a starter next year, this is where you do it. There's no better audition for next year's job, for next year's role on this team than over the next 6 games. It's where you prove it to the coaches, and you get a live dress rehearsal within games to prove that that you are the future of the Cincinnati Bengals as a franchise. So the Bengals come off the bye week 4-7 with 6 games to go. Got to run the table and go 6-0 in the final 6 regular season game if we have any shot of making the playoffs. Hey, stick around. We're going to take a break. When we do come back, we have our Bleav in Bengals insider, Charlie Goldsmith, joining us right here on Bleav in Bengals. Hello, everyone. Look, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting online. From the earliest odds in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all of the action and the ability to watch the games. And this is how it happens. Of course, you can bet on the largest selections of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UCF, and MMA. All you got to do is head on to BetOnline today to get in on all the action, America's most trusted site for betting online. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bleav in Bengals podcast. Yours truly, Solomon Wilcots, and joining us is our Bleav in Bengals insider, Charlie Goldsmith. Charlie, first of all, how are you doing today? What's going on?
Happy Thanksgiving. Doing well. How are you?
Hey, look, ready for some great football. Love this time of year. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. Look, I know you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on with our Cincinnati Bengals as they're coming off the bye week. But as this team begin to huddle up, the big important decision makers, what do you think was the Bengals' point of emphasis during the bye week as they get ready to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers?
This is something that Zach Taylor alluded to before and after the bye. Something they really prioritized getting done was kind of an evaluation of, are there any guys who deserve to get more snaps coming out after the bye than they were getting before the bye? I think you've already seen rotations on defense, but now can kind of be a decision-making time where is it time for Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson to step into even bigger roles up front? Obviously, Josh Newton will now step into the lineup with DJ Turner's season-ending injury. Is Jordan Battle a guy who's going to get a bigger snap share compared to Von Bell? Is it time to reintroduce Dejon Anthony back into the mix after he kind of faded out? That'll probably be impacted by how he looks in practice. Yeah. You can see some of that on offense as well, but I would expect mainly defensively, that's where they had a lot of those conversations.
Yeah, you got to start taking a look at some of these younger guys. I do think that you can accomplish two things at the same time. I think you can continue to improve your team and develop players while trying to win games, but still getting a look at some of these other guys and expecting to perform at a very high level. I think you can accomplish both things at the same time. Talk to me about how the team is feeling, or at least how Joe Burrow is feeling, because I think as he goes, so does the rest of the team. And you remember it was just a couple of years ago when he says, look, we expected to be playing and going to the playoffs every year. He talked about the window never closing as long as he is our quarterback. Do you still think he feels the same way? And how susceptible are the other players to continue to follow his lead?
Yeah, I think kind of the story of the season, even more than the struggles as a whole, has been how Joe Burrow has had to be kind of a different type of guy than he has been. Part of that's been the way he kind of not had to defer, but, he just played a different role when you had big, vocal, kind of bold in a good way, locker room presences like a Joe Mixon, a Tyler Boyd, a DJ Reader. And what you've seen is with kind of the vacuum of those guys being gone and all these new faces coming in, rookies, veterans who are still trying to establish themselves, it's kind of all fallen onto Burrow's plate. And so he's had to be much more deliberate kind of about the tone he sets, about the messaging he creates. He's had to change and evolve a lot. And that's going to be one of the big focuses of the second half of the season for sure as well, which is, maybe if things keep going down the road they're on, how does Burrow approach this? Burrow's playing at a championship level. Like, does Burrow kind of have to be more like a head coach, has the Zach Taylor optimism, the messaging, the keep rowing the boat type of mindset? Does Burrow show more of that to kind of keep with the program, even though on Burrow's program, he's trying to play for a Super Bowl?
Yeah, he's always playing and swinging for the fences. And I think he should never, and I mean ever, have to lower his bar of expectation. With that said, anytime the Cincinnati Bengals getting ready to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether it's home or away, that means a thing in the building. It means a lot to the Bengals fans. What does that mean? Help define for our viewers right now what it means to go into the week saying it's Steeler week.
What this Bengals team has needed all season is what I call it is an everyone gets a game ball type of win. The win where, they show the videos in the locker room after the game where Zach says, everyone gets a game ball this week. Yeah. It was, the whole culture, the whole organization, you all put the chips together and you had what it takes to beat a great team. Like that was the 49ers win last year. In 2022, that first real everyone gets a game ball win that they had was on the road against the Steelers. That was the game when Joe Burrow was shouting like, we're the big dogs now on the sideline to celebrate that game. When you look at the Steelers record, you look at where they're at in the standings, you look at the bar they've set in the AFC North this year, it gives the Bengals the opportunity to get something they haven't had all season, and that's momentum.
One of my favorite sayings by any coach, it just happens to be Mike Tomlin, is, and he often says this, when players start to get disgruntled, or if you think about keeping players, who's coming, who's going, he said, look, we want volunteers, not hostages. And I think about that because of the way that we entered the season with Trey Hendrickson needing and wanting a new contract. But then he took the high road and said, look, we are a potential Super Bowl team, so I'm going to line up and play. T. Higgins wanting a new contract, but he gets hit with the franchise tag. He says, I'm still going to play. Jamar Chase wanting a new contract, didn't get it, but still show up to play, where he's leading the league in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdown. One might argue they're not volunteers, they're hostages. What do you think about that? Just that mindset of how ownership embracing their best players, You want them to be there because they want to be there. And I don't know that you want to force them to be there.
The Steelers have done a great job preventing these types of situations. And you and I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this too. But I feel like this does happen to most teams. Like, this is why windows are a thing, even though Joe Burrow says the window is going to be as long as it is. Like, look at the 49ers. They had all their trade requests. They've had a talent train of their own. This is why the Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball had all that talent drain on the line and a wide receiver, and that's why they've had to shift and now become a defensive-minded team. Like, this is just the reality of the NFL and how hard it is to sustain that type of success year over year. I guess it comes down to drafting well, and that's such a crapshoot that it's so hard to replicate consistently. So that kind of is what creates the urgency to make hay while the sun is shining, because it's not going to last, and the Bengals are seeing right now that it's not going to last forever.
I will answer my own question because you kind of teed me up to kind of give a response. Teams do go through this. The good teams, Charlie, handle it very well. And how do we know who those good teams are? The teams that keep winning. The New England Patriots, in the 20 years Belichick was there, they never had these discrepancies. And if they did, you know what? The player was then traded. They got assets for that player.
They just traded him before.
Yeah, they would move on. But they kept winning.
They did.
And it validated that the decision was the right decision. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are playing for their third straight Super Bowl, but they said goodbye to Tyreek Hill and kept winning. They've now said goodbye to L'Jarius Sneed, and they have kept winning. They're 10-1, despite saying goodbye to the cornerback who was graded the highest of any cornerback in the league last year by PFF during the 2023 season. So what they have shown is this ability to move on, but they never have those players hostage. And Andy Reid knows better that if you try to force a player in our league today, to try to force a player to play for you and think that they're going to perform when it gets thick, when it gets really hairy, and that they're going to give you their best when you really haven't given them your best, I just think you're fooling yourself. And I think the best coaches and the best teams who have been successful over a period of time, I think you can just look at their experiences and it kind of tells you how to best handle it. If you're not going to take care of them, in many cases, the Bengals have drafted the guys I named, at least not Trey Hendrickson. But when you draft players, Jesse Bates, we could kind of throw him in there, particularly when you're on that first contract, you're young, and you've proven it. Why wouldn't you keep them into that second deal? Why wouldn't you pay them early into that second contract? That's always been a trend for Andy Reid. It's always been a trend for the New England Patriots when Belichick was kind of running it. The best teams want to keep their best players, particularly when they drafted them. But I think like the Steelers, who, oh, by the way, have more Lombardi trophies than anyone else, except maybe the Patriots. They have 6, both teams does. That if you draft them and they play and perform well and they're good citizens in the community and in the locker room, I think the answer to the question is, yeah, you want them to be volunteers. In fact, they've already proven it. So why wouldn't you reward them?
Can you see the difference on film between players who are happy with where they're at and players who aren't? Like, where do you see that? Do you see that on plays where they don't get the ball, like dirty work type plays? Do you see that on, when you're losing by 20 points? When does that show up, kind of that discrepancy?
You know where it shows up? It doesn't. It's just what we call discretionary energy, Charlie. It doesn't show up like there's no numerical data that's going to point you to the nuance that we're talking about here. This is nuanced stuff. This is what allows you to build championship teams as opposed to teams that are just a perennial good team. They're right there. But understanding who those key important force multipliers are in your locker room, and that as they go, so does the rest of the team. The rest of the team they hold a certain value because they say to themselves, look at how you treat that guy. If you do that to Jamar, if you do that to T, if you do that to Bates, if you do, what does that say for me? What does that say? What does that say for the regular guy? And then what happens is the little things. Do players play through injury, or do they take that week off? Do they practice through those injuries because they understand that inherently the organization cares about me? this organization will go the extra mile for me, so I'm going to go the extra mile for them. So where it shows up is where do we get that, what we call discretionary energy. This is the energy that players give up at their own discretion. And you'll hear players say, I'll run through a wall for that coach. You know what they're not saying? But that coach I won't. I'll run through a wall for this team or for this teammate, but not for this guy. They give it up at their own discretion. And so there has to be an investment made into the players and the people that are really the right ingredients. They're the right components that, like force multipliers, they compel others to do the same as they do. They compel others that, you know what, I'm coming in early because that's what we do here. How do we do that? I know that because that's what Joe does. That's what Jamar does. That's what there are certain players that other players, they follow their trends. They follow the things that they do. And it's important at the top of the organization that you know who those people are. And sometimes teams miss on that. I mean, they really do. And so that's where it shows up. There's this lack of energy when it comes to coming to work with a smile on your face, saying, man, I'm giving it up this week because it's Steeler week. This is what we do around. They help you build your culture. That's where it shows up. There are people who are like that. And then there are other people that are just waiting to find a few people in the locker room and on the team who are doing it. And now they're going to do it too. So that's where it shows up. And this is where experience of running teams comes into play. This is where experience as coaches comes into play. And not just experience in the league. Oh, I got these many number of years as a coach. How many years have you had on a team that has been winning? How many years have you had against character guys? And I'm not trying to knock anybody because I think we've got some high character guys too. But a Ray Lewis, I remember being in a locker room. You watch Ray Lewis and the Air Reed, man, look, all the rest of the rookies, they're like, I'm doing what he's doing. Whatever those guys are doing, the coach, his job is easy because you got guys in there setting the trend. And oh, by the way, Ozzie Newsome knows who those guys are. And he's making sure he's paying to keep them. And he's making sure that everybody in the organization say, let those guys run the locker room. They're really running the team because they're going to lead us to championships. And that's how it's done. Now listen, that energy doesn't show up in the stat box, does it? It really doesn't. Mm-hmm. These are the things that really provides the energy and a mindset and a culture that allows you to win a championship or multiple championships. The really good teams know this because they've seen it. And once they see it, they're like, there's always trying to duplicate that. Now, I think the teams that have yet to put a Vince Lombardi trophy in their right in the hall, right as soon as you walk into the building, I think they're always trying to figure out what do we need to do. And I think sometimes teams become so offensive heavy, they become defensive heavy. They lean on they put it all on the quarterback, expect the quarterback to do the everything work to build a team. The championship teams know that it's more than just a quarterback. It's great to have that guy. In fact, you can't win it if you don't have that guy, but you're going to need a whole lot more than that. And I would just say to the Bengals, don't put it all on Joe Burrow. That's asking too much of one man, but you better go out and get him some help. Look, we got one other question that I got to ask you about. What can we expect these last 6 regular season games? You got 2 games against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're playing against some of the top defenses in the NFL. Tennessee Titans, Brian Callahan group, they're playing good defense now, right? And the Denver Broncos, remember, the Denver Broncos are one of the best defenses in the NFL. And then the Cleveland Browns. 5 of the next 6 games are against some of the top defenses in our league. What can we expect in these next 6 contests?
Well, the big focus for me against defenses that are going to make it tough is I would bet these would be close games. And it's going to put an extra spotlight on the thing we keep bringing up week after week, which is the Bengals, as good as elite as the offense has been, the inability to close it out. You know, you look at the way the Patriots game ended, the way the Chiefs game ended, both Ravens games, the Chargers games, even the way that the Bengals kind of struggled taking the final blow, getting the final kill shot against the Giants and Panthers and Browns too. reminders that this Bengals team has struggled closing out games. It's a reflection on just some situations where the defense has just won a lot of downs in these game-deciding situations. Yeah. I think the Bengals over the bye week should have reorganized or reprioritized exactly what they want their scheme to look like in those big high leverage moments for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
They need to reinvent the power run game and make that something they can count on when they have to run out the clock, 4-minute mode again, put the final kill shot on these defenses. Does the Bengals offense have enough answers now to finally finish these games, which they haven't done well at all for the first 3 months of the season?
And look, and we got to get Jermaine Burton going on offense. I want to see more Andre Yoshivas. The tight ends have become a more integral part of the passing game. There's no doubt about it. And we really only have one running back that we can rely upon in Chase Brown. So there needs to be some evolution. There needs to be some growth and development on both sides of the ball. And these next 6 games are going to tell us a lot about what the team is going to look like going into 2025. Charlie Goldsmith, you're the best, my friend. Thank you for bringing the wisdom. Thank you for bringing the knowledge. Look forward to talking to you again next week, my friend.
Talk to you next week.
All right, as we come back to the Bleav in Bengals, it's time to talk about the Performer of the Week. Of course, it's brought to you by our lovely sponsor, French Creek Roofing, Greater Cincinnati's choice for roofing, windows, and siding. If you need a new roof, need new windows, need new siding, just call the people at French Creek Roofing. They are simply the best. Now, look, I got to tell you, when you talk about performer of the bye week, who was the Cincinnati Bengals performer during the bye week? Week 12. It was none other than Saquon Barkley. Because you know what? You know what he did for the Cincinnati Bengals? He showed us that the running back position is not dead. I'm telling you right now. It shows you that you can use a first-round pick on a running back, but he better be the right guy. If Walter Payton was coming out of the NFL draft today, would you take a first-round pick and use it on Walter Payton? Would you use a first-round pick on Jim Brown? I know I would. Do not listen to the data analytics community when they tell you don't take a running back in the first round. Because the New York Giants, they did the right thing when they took Saquon Barkley in the first round in 2018. And then they did the wrong thing by listening to the data analytics community and say that you don't pay him. You don't award him a second contract. What has he done for the Philadelphia Eagles? If you would have watched him on Sunday night, he had 255 yards rushing in that game, set a franchise record. The Eagles have been playing football in the NFL since 1933, and he had more yards rushing in a single game than any other runner in team history. He became the 4th player to top 200 yards rushing, but the 9th player in NFL history to have that many yards in a single game. 255 to be exact, had over 300 yards in total offense. And how about this? He literally put the team on his back in the second half. He had 2 runs for touchdowns that went for over 70 yards. This dude is electric. There are running backs, and then there are running backs. You know what I mean? The kind of guys that can put the team on their back, can hit a home run from anywhere on the field, that when they get to the second level, they got another gear, they got power coming through the hole, and they got speed leaving the hole. In fact, they're leaving behind all 11 defenders, blazing a trail through your secondary on their way to the end zone. The great running backs, that's what they do. And we have a few of them if you just pay attention. We have a few of them in the NFL right now. I'm putting Christian McCaffrey in that category. I know he's been banged up this year, but he's a bona fide game changer. Derrick Henry, bona fide game changer. Saquon Barkley's in that mix. You know who else is in that mix? Oh, Alvin Kamara with the New Orleans Saints. And Cincinnati Bengals, I know you don't want to hear this. Joe Mixon, he's in that mix. That's what he's done for the Houston Texans. He's been better since he's gone to Houston. I don't know. He's just better. And what I always loved about Joe, he doesn't fumble. 6 fumbles in his 8 seasons now in the NFL. Half of those fumbles came in his rookie campaign. He had 3 fumbles that year. The reason why I said that Saquon Barkley is the performer of the week for the Bengals, because I think he showed the brass that we need to go get us a bell cow. if you want to help Cincinnati Bengals offense, if you want to help Joe Burrow, you want to help Jamar Chase get more one-on-one coverage, right? Like you see for A.J. Brown and the Eagles offense. If you want to help your quarterback, you want to help your wide receivers, get yourself a bell cow runner. And I love Chase Brown, but I want me a bruiser. I want somebody who can take over the game. Just like you saw with Josh Jacobs and the Green Bay Packers. 3 rushing touchdowns against the 49ers Week 12 Sunday. He vindicated, along with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and Joe Mixon, they vindicated the running back position. It is back in vogue. It should have never went out of vogue. But if you can find the right one, not just any running back, a special running back. Look at what Jahmyr Gibbs is doing for the Detroit Lions. He and David Montgomery. If we get one of those, Cincinnati, no doubt our offense is going to be cooking. So you just can't put it all on the quarterback, Joe Burrow. We need to get the guy some help. As we're looking ahead, Week 13, Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers at Paycor Stadium. Of course, our Looking Ahead segment is brought to you by the people at Midwest Hospice. If you're dealing with the final days of a loved one, we know it can be very difficult and very overwhelming. Why don't you give the people at Midwest Hospice a call? They've been taking care of Cincinnati for the last 10 years. Of course, Cincinnati Bengals need to take care of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would love nothing more than to sort of just upset what the Pittsburgh Steelers got going, because they do have a half-game lead standing in first place in the AFC North Division. Think about this, Cincinnati. Coming into the season, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't even know who was going to be their quarterback. In fact, you would say that they had the worst quarterback situation of any team in the division, right? Because Lamar Jackson's in Baltimore. Of course, we've got Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Cleveland Browns had Deshaun Watson. They have Jameis Winston as a backup. Some level of security at quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers was a team coming into the season. They didn't know who was going to be the quarterback. Justin Fields, after he left Chicago, he was shown the door, while Russell Wilson was shown the door in Denver. Do you know that the Denver Broncos are paying the lion's share of Russell Wilson's $35 million salary this year? They're paying for Russell Wilson to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's how badly the Denver Broncos wanted him gone. And now he's 4-1 in the 5 games he's been a starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and have them playing in first place in the AFC North Division. I'm here to tell you, Cincinnati, it's not always just about who the quarterback is. I tell you what, Mike Tomlin's done a wonderful job of coaching that team and developing the team around the quarterback, but they also have a great defense. They are the 4th best scoring defense in the NFL, only giving up 18 points per game. And what if I told you offensively, they rank 10th in scoring drive percentage on offense? They score on 43% of their offensive drives. You know who's right behind them at 11th in the NFL in scoring drive percentage? Cincinnati Bengals at 42%. So that tells you their offense has been scoring at a greater clip than Cincinnati Bengals offense, led by the great Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So that just goes to show you guys, it ain't always about the offense. And as good as our offense looks, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now performing just a skosh, just a little bit better. So Cincinnati Bengals, let's pack Paycor Stadium. Let's show them that we still continue to support our team. We got 6 games to win to get into the playoffs, and it starts on Sunday, Week 13, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't forget to join me again next time, everyone, right here on the Bleav in Bengals podcast.